morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this Wednesday. I got to tell you, I really like the way things were going Tuesday far better. So let's go back to Tuesday for just one moment and see what was happening Tuesday that led us into today, where it's a little bit of a bloodbath in certain spots within the market. But it was a yeehaw kind of a day on Tuesday, no doubt about that. The Dow just start to finish, bell to bell, exploding to the upside. Just a point under a 500-point move to the upside, almost 1.5% for the Dow. That's a pretty monstrous move. Then you get the NASDAQ up 2%. That was also on the move. One of those names that was contributing to some of that actually was Netflix. Netflix is contributing again today, but in a completely different direction. Now, before we go all the way to that, though, then the S&P still about a 1.6% move to the upside. Everything felt pretty strong, pretty impressive. We had volatility kind of coming down. Got down towards that 2130 level. We had a very, very slow day when it comes to the option activity. It was 32 million contracts. Now, you've heard me sit here and say how slow it is when we get down underneath 40 million. Here we are going all the way down to 32 million. Not a single stock yesterday over a million contracts trading. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of just it was light, and it was light everywhere, including Tesla and Apple and NVIDIA and AMD and all those names that seem to always be in the top 5 or something like that. I still look over at crude, a little bit of an easing off. It got back down towards about 103. The 10-year just continues to be near those highs, establishing where it is about a 3-year high, give or take, at about a 294, I think, is where we actually got up to yesterday. Pretty big move, which we've been watching very, very closely for a really long time, of course. Now, what was really leading things yesterday? Consumer discretion. You take a look at Amazon, you take a look at Tesla, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. A 3% move, very, very powerful move to the upside. Then you throw in some technology as well, nearly a 2% move. And it was those FANG names. It was those big, bold, big, bad mega cap names. It was Google. It was Netflix. It was Facebook. It was Tesla. It was Amazon, all with a very powerful move to the upside. Throw in the semiconductors, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. That was up about 2% as well with NVIDIA and AMD and Intel and Micron and so many others. But the industrials chipped in as well with Caterpillar and Boeing. You also had the financials, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. You kind of get the idea. It was pretty much everywhere except a couple different spots. Twitter pulling back. We had Pfizer, you had Moderna. Travelers definitely stuck out. I believe when you looked at the Dow, not only was that the worst performer in the Dow yesterday, but one of the very few stocks that was actually in the red. Beta energy names, they were under a little bit of pressure as well as we were kind of easing back there. Chinese names, that JD, PDD, you get the idea, Baidu, they were all pulling back a little bit. As we get into today, it all started last night. And what did start last night? Well, everybody was looking at earnings. Earnings season so far has been pretty relaxed, quite honestly. Yeah, we've had some movement. We've had a lot of the banks with some commentary and so forth, but it was absolutely a Netflix kind of night. IBM got completely thrown to the side, despite the fact that IBM had some very nice numbers. No one wanted to talk about it. It was all about Netflix, and probably for the right reasons, given what we were seeing last night, and then given what we're seeing today. Absolutely just getting hammered. Yeah, they missed a couple of numbers. They lost subs. That was an absolute shock. First time in a decade or something like that. It just amazing. And the competition of streaming. And everybody's talking about the fact that all of this sharing and so forth. By the way, every one of those streamers, they've got issues with that sharing, but certainly hits Netflix pretty hard. And it also, in my opinion, and others have different opinions on this, but in my opinion, that it does hurt their pricing power. So that combination, probably why we're seeing the follow through from about a $50 drop to an incredible $100+ drop. Unbelievable movement that we are seeing out of Netflix today. Technology started off the day pretty strong. Industrials were pretty strong early on. Financials were pretty decent as well. Energy started a little bit of a bounce. That was hanging in there pretty okay. I look over at crude, right around 103, 104 in that sort of area. Also looking at the 10-year at a 2.9, just below a 2.9. Volatility, I thought we might crack under 20 early. And we haven't done it yet. We may do it later in the day. We'll see. We're only into the first hour. But as you look at what was going on early, we did have the Dow rising pretty rapidly. It was up 100 in the pre, then 200 to 80. As we got into the opening, it was up over 300 points early on. We fell back a little bit. Last I looked, we were approaching being up about 300 points once again as well. But it's the NASDAQ that's that drag. It's been down over 100 points. Last I looked, down about 80 points. Semiconductors having a pretty decent day. It's those communication. And when I say that, we're talking Netflix, the influence that we're getting there, 37% drop. I mean, that is really, really something. Feels a lot worse even than the Facebook drop that we had not too many months ago as well. So we're seeing that sort of play out right in front of our very eyes. I mentioned IBM. That was a strength. When you look at some of the earnings, IBM, Procter & Gamble, those are areas where we're seeing some definite strength. Semiconductors across the board, you're just seeing a lot of strength there, whether you want to go to the Seagate route along with Western Digital, or you want to go to Applied Materials and KLAC 10 Core, wherever you want to look, it seems like having a pretty good day for the semiconductors as well. Dollar Tree, we're also seeing Marriott having a pretty good day, Home Depot, Walmart, a lot of different names that are definitely having a pretty decent day, and that's a lot of that reflected by what you're seeing out of the Dow and some of the other areas outside of the NASDAQ right now. But it's Netflix, it's PayPal, it's Facebook, it's Beta Energy getting a little bit of a hit today. Throw in Disney and the rest of the streamers that are all getting dragged to the downside. You get the idea. That's why we're seeing this kind of interesting movement that we are seeing where the Dow is really actually participating very nicely to the upside, but you got a pretty good weight hanging on right now. And it's not necessarily technology and it's not semiconductors, but it's some of those other areas that are definitely giving the market's a little bit of a pull. So I've got two unusuals, still got the halftime report in front of us today. And this evening, we're going to be having this great thing here with Market Rebellion, where we're going to be talking about what it's like to be buying stocks and then covering with the covered calls, selling calls against those. That's going to be right at the market close tonight. Valet is my first one right now here. It's trading right about 1830. Materials early on today, we're up about 0.75%, having a pretty good start to the day. This stock was trading 1830. We had a buyer of 3,000 of the May 20.5 calls. So looking for a pretty reasonably big move, actually. I know this is going out into May, but that's a pretty big move to the upside. Only 25 cents was what these calls were going for at the time of the purchase. And again, that's when the stock was trading about 1830. It's obviously things do move around. Marathon Oil is number two. And Marathon Oil trading underneath 27 bucks a share, just a little bit underneath that level. They're buying 16,300 of right on top of it, those 27 calls that expire on Friday. You got today, tomorrow, and Friday for these to pan out. But the stock is right there. It's trading 26.88 at the time. And here they're buying these 27 stocks, or the 27 strike calls. Those are about 39 cents up to about 55 cents for those calls. So a very, very wild day of already. We're sitting there and everybody's talking about Netflix. We'll be leading off the show, of course, today talking about Netflix. We did that last night on the 5 p.m. show as well. So there's a lot going on. Certainly some interesting trades, but I think if you look outside of some of the big headliners, there's a lot of other interesting storylines going on right now today. Specifically, I'll just point out IBM outside of just Netflix. Everybody's talking about Netflix. I get it. Makes a lot of sense for all the right reasons, but there are other storylines out there as well. So hopefully we get a chance to hit those as well. Folks, have a great day of trading.